This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to What Happens When You Die. This is Chapter 3, where we're diving into near-death experiences and what decades of scientific research has actually uncovered about these mysterious encounters. We'll explore the surprisingly consistent patterns that show up again and again when people come back from the brink of death. Let's get into it. About 1 in 5 people brought back from clinical death say the same strange thing. I was gone, but I was still there. On an operating table, in a crashed car, in a quiet hospital room, consciousness seems to step outside the body, just as the brain is shutting down. Neurologists hook dying patients to EEGs and see something unsettling. Just as everything should be fading out, some brains flare with brief, highly organized bursts of activity. At the same time, cardiologists collect stories from resuscitated patients who insist their clearest, most meaningful experiences happened precisely when monitors said no one was home. Across more than 40 years, these two streams, hard data and haunting testimony, have forced researchers to take NDEs seriously without agreeing on what they mean. Are we witnessing a last, intense storm of brain activity that the mind stitches into a story? Or are these glimpses of a reality that doesn't end when the body's systems do? To probe that question, scientists now combine bedside interviews, brain scans, and even hidden visual targets in ERs, testing whether perceptions during NDEs can line up with verifiable events. To move beyond anecdotes, researchers needed a way to pin these elusive episodes to something they could actually measure. That's where standardized tools like the Grayson NDE scale come in, a 16-item checklist that turns "something ineffable happened" into data you can tally, compare, and track over time. Scores of 7 or higher mark a full experience, letting teams sort vague memories from strikingly detailed ones. With that, patterns emerge. Clusters of altered time, intense emotion, and otherworldly encounters, appearing in similar form from ICU wards in the US to rural clinics in India and battlefields in the Middle East. Across hundreds of detailed case reports, 4 themes keep surfacing so often that researchers now treat them as the core architecture of NDEs rather than random oddities. First are the cognitive shifts. People describe time as slowing, stopping, or unfolding all at once. Their thinking feels faster and clearer than in everyday life. Many report panoramic life reviews, where forgotten moments return with sharp emotional detail, sometimes from another person's perspective, as if they're both actor and witness in the same scene. Second are the affective changes. Terror at the moment of crisis often flips into overwhelming peace, love, or a sense of home. Even when the imagery is frightening or confusing, the emotional tone is rarely neutral. Follow-up studies find these feelings can be so powerful that years later, people still struggle to match them with ordinary language. Third come the so-called paranormal elements. Out-of-body perspectives, hearing conversations from another room, or knowing what doctors were doing to the body below have all been reported, then later compared with medical records or staff accounts. Most don't survive careful checking. A minority do, and those stubborn cases are precisely what keep the mind can separate from brain hypothesis on the table. Finally, there are transcendental components, entering otherworldly landscapes, meeting deceased relatives, or encountering a presence that radiates knowledge or unconditional acceptance. Culture shapes these scenes. The symbols, characters, and interpretations differ in India, Japan, or the US, but the underlying structure is strikingly similar. Crossing a boundary, reaching a limit, and then being sent back. Biology offers several overlapping pathways for these experiences. Rapid drops in blood flow can disrupt the visual system and body map, making tunnels, lights, and floating sensations more likely. Surges of endogenous opioids and other neurochemicals can generate euphoria, pain relief, and vivid imagery. Disordered activity in temporal, parietal regions is known to produce out-of-body illusions in lab settings. Yet the timeline doesn't always cooperate with neat explanations. Some NDE reports seem to sync with periods when brain activity should be flat or deeply suppressed, during prolonged cardiac arrest, under heavy anesthesia, or in rare surgical procedures that deliberately cool and drain the brain. Are these memories formed on the way into or out of those states, then misdated? Are monitors missing brief islands of activity? Or are we bumping into limits of our current models of how experience tracks physical signals? Long-term follow-ups add another layer. People who've had strong NDEs often emerge with lasting shifts in values. Fear of death drops. Material goals lose urgency. Empathy, spirituality, religious or not, and a sense of purpose tend to rise. These transformations look less like a typical hallucination aftermath and more like what psychologists see after intense psychedelic journeys or profound life crises. Taken together, the data point to a story that's neither simple skepticism nor easy proof of an afterlife. The strongest evidence favors unusual but still natural brain processes under extreme stress. At the same time, a small fraction of carefully documented cases sits uncomfortably at the edge of what those processes can currently explain. Your challenge this week: notice how your own assumptions color what you find credible or impossible about these findings. When you hear a striking NDE account, whether from a documentary, a podcast, or someone you know, pause and ask two very specific questions. What part of this story could, even in principle, be checked against outside facts? And what part is by definition private, accessible only to the experiencer? Keep a simple two-column note on your phone or notebook labeled checkable and private. By next week, review how often your gut reaction was driven more by the emotional force of the story than by which details could actually be tested. A useful way to grasp attention in this research is to look at how different kinds of anomalies have been tamed in other fields. For instance, early radiologists reported patients seeing flashes of light when exposed to radiation. It sounded mystical until careful experiments showed retinal cells firing in unusual ways. In NDE work, similar taming attempts include placing hidden symbols on high shelves in ERs, visible only from above. A few patients give eerily accurate descriptions of procedures or conversations, but almost never of those targets, suggesting sharp internal reconstructions rather than free-floating perception. Think of it like a jazz improvisation. The musician isn't pulling notes from another universe, but creatively recombining a lifetime of scales, riffs, and rhythms under extreme pressure. The unresolved question is whether all NDE details can eventually be traced to such recombinations, or whether some stubborn notes keep refusing to fit the score. If future studies link specific NDE features to precise brain signatures, we might treat them less as philosophical puzzles and more as data for mental health. Therapists could use NDE stories like navigational charts, helping patients revisit fear, regret, or awe in controlled ways. Palliative teams may increasingly ask, "Have you had anything like this before?" the way cardiologists ask about chest pain, using unusual experiences as clinical clues rather than taboo topics. In the end, NDE research may reshape how we approach ordinary living more than dying. If minds can generate such intricate worlds under extreme strain, what else are they quietly composing in grief, love, or boredom? Like a city that looks different at night, our inner landscape may hold districts we've barely mapped, inviting careful science without closing off mystery. Before next week, ask yourself, 1. If I truly trusted what near-death experiencers describe, like the life review and that overwhelming sense of unconditional love, what is one specific conversation I'd have this week that I've been putting off? 2. Looking at how NDEs often dissolve the fear of death, what is one concrete way I could change how I'm spending my time today so it better reflects what I'd want to see in my own life review? 3. Many experiencers come back with a stronger sense of purpose and service. If I borrowed their perspective for just one day, what is one practical way I could show up differently for someone in my life, a friend, partner, colleague, or stranger, before this week is over? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. This series continues with more chapters on OwlUp.co. Visit OwlUp.co to access the complete course and continue your learning journey. See you there!